Good afternoon, everyone. Can you guys all hear me and can you see my screen? I just want to make sure that we get all the technical difficulties out of the way before we get started here. You can either unmute and say yes, or you can type in a message just to let me know.
I can hear and see you, Leah.
Perfect. All right, thanks for the response, everyone. Well, welcome to Salamander's monthly webinar series. My name is Leah Holtrop, and I'm the training manager for Salamander Technologies, and I'm going to be your presenter today. So for this month's webinar, we're going to be focusing on how to create and manage personnel and equipment records in the updated Salamander Live site. So this kind of continues what we started in August when we launched the new Salamander Live site. I know we did take a break last month when we went into inventory management, but I wanted to make sure that we went back and covered all the basic essentials for how to add, edit, duplicate, and copy personnel and equipment records in the updated site. So here's a quick look at our agenda for this call. We're going to first do a quick overview of Salamander Live for those of you that may be new to the solution and are seeing it for the very first time. And then we're going to go right into the meat of the presentation and look at how to manually create personnel and equipment records. We're going to take a look at how to edit and duplicate and copy records. We're also going to be able to take a look at how to print personnel and equipment records. And then last, we'll take a look at the new process for importing personnel and equipment data into Salamander Live. So I'm sure for those of you that have done some importing in the old site, you'll be very happy to see that the new process for importing is a lot easier and simpler. All right, so here's just a quick high-level overview of Salamander Live. So the first step in every Salamander solution is Salamander Live. So Salamander Live is a cloud-based solution, and it is the core of intelligent accountability, which means it's going to allow you to tag your resources, track them, and then report on them. It also acts as a central hub to managing your resources and event accountability. So this is going to be that main tool that you're going to be using to create your tags, manage your qualifications, run reports, view mapping information, and a whole lot more. If you have inventory management, you'll also be able to do that within the Salamander Live site as well too. This is going to also be the administration tool for creating and editing app users. So this is going to be the tool where you're going to go in, give your users access to the tag app, the track app, the inventory app, as well as access to Salamander Live. So this is all about Salamander Live, the new updated site. All right, so let me just close this out and get into Salamander Live. So again, what we're going to cover is going to be based off of the new updated site. Make sure that you have your logins for that. It's going to be the same logins that you used for the old site. Once you go into the new site, it's just basically this URL right here. If you don't have it, it's right here. It's https app.salamanderlive.com, and the difference is that v2 at the end there, so /v2. Once you log in, this is going to take you right straight into your home dashboard. So you'll notice that it's a big difference in the look and feel of this site versus the old site. So you're never going to be able to, not know that you're going to be in the version 2 site. All right, so on the left side, you'll see that this is going to be your menu panel. So the first things that we're going to look at is going to go into creating personnel records. So for today's call, we're not going to cover adding organizations, since we did cover that in our August webinar, and I don't want to repeat information. So we're only going to cover how to add personnel and equipment records as well as import them. But I do want to note that it is important that you create your organization records first before you start adding your personnel and equipment. This is because the records have to be tied to an organization. And if that organization does not exist, you're going to need to go back in and create that organization first. So once that organization is in, only then can you tie them to their respective organization. So it's only once the organization is done, you can go in and select that organization from a drop-down to add it to your personnel and equipment records. All right, so accessing your personnel records can be done a couple different ways. You can click this little direct link that's going to take you right into your personnel list. In your home dashboard, if you have it set up as so, again, this is a customizable layout. There is going to be your personnel list right here as well too that you can access it. So you can click on this little icon, which is your list view icon, and it'll take you directly into your personnel list. Or you can click here. Once you get in there, this is going to list all of your personnel records that you currently have added into your database. Now, if you're brand new and your list is blank, that's all right, because you can quickly add in personnel, and you can do it one of two different ways. You can do a manual add, which means you have to add these in one by one, or you can do the import. So I'm going to show you both ways. So I'm going to show you the manual add, and then we'll walk through the import process. So when adding personnel, there's actually two different ways you can do so. So in your personnel list, you'll see at the top here, there's some icons right here. You can click on this little add icon, which will add a new record. Or you can go over here to your menu, and there's this quick add option, and you can click the little button right here, and then it's going to pull a little drop down, and you can click person from here. So two different ways you can do it. There's no right or wrong way. This is just a quick shortcut that you can use to quickly add a person in. Once you click add person, you'll notice that a create new personnel form is going to pop up, and this here is just going to pull up just your basic required information in order to create a personnel record. So there's 4 pieces of information that's required for every single personnel record that you create. Now this is important to note because if you are looking at importing people, you got to make sure that you have an ID number, the organization, first name, and last name. So it's the same thing for this. So your ID on here, the system's going to automatically generate an ID for you, but you have the option of choosing your own ID if you like. Oh, excuse me, I hear someone in the background. Did you have a question?
Sorry, Leah, I missed the mute button.
Oh, that's okay. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any questions that you have. I do want to note, if you have questions throughout here, please feel free to ask them. I will have little sections after we complete each part of this to open up for questions before we move on to the next section. Or you can also type them into the IM box as well too in the conversations link. So on here, ID, I know that most organizations do like using employee IDs or any other IDs that they have. So again, totally up to you. You can use a system generated one or a specific one to be able to easily identify that individual. So for the purposes of this training, I'm just going to leave it as the system generated ID. Next on here is a status. This is optional, but you do have the option of putting that person's status on here. So there's a whole bunch of different options for you to choose from on here. So you can put on here as active. The organization, so next thing on here is to type in the organization. Notice as you start typing, it's going to pull up anything that matches that. So again, this is pulling from your organization list that you already created. Now this is what I was saying, that is if you don't have organizations created, your list is going to be empty, which means that you cannot create this personnel record. So if you go in here and you're trying to find Moosewood EMS and it's not listed, that means that you're going to have to go back out of this, go to organizations and create a organization record for Moosewood EMS. Good thing we already created that, so here it is. All I need to do is select it. Once it's selected, now this person is going to be tied to Moosewood EMS. Next required piece of information is first name and last name. Of course, you have the option of adding middle names, suffix, and birth date if you want on here. Once you type in a name, all you do is click Save. And what this is going to do, it's going to take you directly into that profile. So this is going to be the personnel profile for the person you just created. So you'll see on here, here's all the information that you created on that tiny form. So there's other, of course, information you can add on here. If you wanted to stop right here, you definitely can. I know most organizations want to make sure that they have at least employment information in. They want to make sure they have a picture uploaded, because especially if you're looking at printing tags, the more information you have to be able to identify that person, the better it's going to be. So this is your option, you know, based off of your organizational procedures. You know, you guys can do whatever you guys want on this, but you do just have to have the basic information on here. So first things first that you'll notice on here is employment. So for each of these headings, you'll see that they're orange, and there's a little pencil next to that. That means that they're clickable. And once you do so, it's going to open up into a pop-up form. Now there is going to be a future update that's going to be available. I don't know when it's going to be coming out, but I know it is being worked on by our development team. But it is going to allow you, each time you open up into each of these different sections, there's going to be a button down here that's going to allow you to click next, which will take you to the next section that's in the next row on here. So like for instance, this will go next to like location and contact once you click the next button. So again, that's going to be a future update for this. So in the employment section, you have all this optional information that you can fill out. Station, if there's stationed somewhere. I know fire departments, they have like station, you know, 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. If you want to put that information in here. If there's a title that you want to add to this person, this is where you can do so. So in here, you'll see there's a list that pops up on here. If you've been in here adding in titles and whatnot, it's going to pull up and save any that you've typed in the past or used in the past on here. So if you want to go through your list, you can definitely do so. So office manager is not in here. If there is an other ID that you have for this individual, you can enter that here. And then if there is a student, especially for schools, you can enter a student ID here. You have the option of putting a hire date, termination date, and then you can look at costs. So costs on here is very important, especially if you're looking at cost reports. So if, for instance, there is an event or an incident and this person is going to be going to that event or incident, you want to be able to see what it costs to have that person there. So in order for you to be able to calculate those costs, you do have to put in a rate, and it has to go in the standard rate here. I mean, you can have a standby rate, overtime rate, and other rate in here, but the standard rate is going to be what's most important, and it goes by per hour. So you'll want to put that in here. If you don't have a standard rate in here, let's say everything is 0, and this person does go on scene and does respond to an incident or event, on their cost report it's going to show $0. So again, this is totally optional, up to your organization, but it's one that I highly recommend that you use. So on here we'll just put $25 as an example. On here you have the ability to enter in the person's driver's license and their license expiration. This is important, especially if they're drivers. You want to make sure that they're not driving around with a expired license. At the bottom here you have the option of entering any notes. So this is a notes section. This is the only area in which you can enter in notes. So any notes that you can do, it's I believe it's a 512 max character for notes on here. So if there's anything specific that you want to add for this person, you can do so in this notes section. Once you're done, just click save. Once you do so, you'll see the employment information is going to fill out only the information in which you have entered in. So this again is going to try to keep everything as clean as possible. So any fields that don't have information will not be available in the summary profile. Next on here you have the option of adding a photo. So there's actually 2 different things you can do on here. You can upload a photo by clicking this button right here, this icon, and you can upload a photo that you currently have available on your computer. Or if you have a camera on your computer, or if you have an external camera that's connected to your computer, you can click this icon and then you can actually take a photo of that individual, and then that will be automatically uploaded right here. So again, you have your two options. If you are a user of the old Salamander Live site, there was only one option, which was uploading. So this is something that's brand new and only available on this version. You also have the ability to upload a signature on here. So to do so, again, just click this little icon. This is the upload icon, which means that you have to have a signature that's already available, and you'll be searching it through your documents folder. So again, totally up to you if you want to use these, not required, but again, very useful and recommended, especially if you're looking at printing tags. Next on here is the location and contact. If you want to click on that, this is where you can enter in that person's email, their phone number, work phone, mobile, and then fax. And then you also have the ability to add an address in here. So we'll just put on here, and then you've got a phone number if you want to add that in. And then you got an address, so click add address. So just click that little link and then you can add an address. On here there's a couple different address types you can select. You can select home, which is going to be the default, mailing, other, work, and physical. So again, you can add as many addresses as you want. So if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that there's another add address. So let's say this is the home address, but you also wanted to add a work address on here, you can definitely do so. So again, totally up to you and how you want to do this, and what kind of information you want to add for this person. One thing I do want to note on the address lines is that it does use geolocation. So if you start typing in an address, so let's say I'm typing in 9, it's going to basically pull up addresses, and this is going to be based off of your geolocation of where you're located. So I'm in Minnesota, so this is going to pull up addresses in Minnesota. So if I select one, it's going to autofill in all those fields for you. So this is something that's extremely beneficial, so you don't have to go in and type in, you know, the city, county, postal, zip code, latitude, and longitude. Once you're done with this information, just click Save, and it's going to add that information under the location and contact information. Next on here is the ability to add documents. So in Salamander Live, the updated version, one of our newest features is the ability to upload documents, and you can do this for personnel and or equipment records. Now this, you can basically upload a copy of their driver's license, vehicle insurance information, medical release forms. You can upload, say, supporting qualification training certifications, and more. So one thing to note, there is a max file size of 5 megabytes per upload, but there isn't a limit on the number of documents you can upload to a record. So there are 4 different types of files that you can upload. You can upload PDF files, Excel files, Word, and CSV files. Now, if you are on the current Salamander pricing, so Salamander Live pricing module, you will have document upload built into your existing Salamander Live subscription. The amount of data that's going to be included is going to be dependent upon which Salamander Live subscription level that your account purchased. So there's 5 different levels. There's level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and each one of those levels have different data gigabyte limitations. For price inquiries on document upload or additional data, you can contact your local sales rep. Now, I do want to note, if you're on the older Salamander Live pricing module, you do need to purchase document upload, as it's not built into your subscription. So if you don't see this option right here, the option to upload documents, that means that you're probably on an older plan, and you probably want to get in contact with your local sales rep in order to download documents. So to download documents is super easy. All you have to do is click on the little drop down. It's going to you'll see this here. You can either drop files here or you can click to add documents. So totally up to you on how you want to do this. It's super simple, easy. Let's say if I wanted to drag and drop a document, I don't know, let's see. What do I have on here? So if I have this document, this is, let's say this is a certification for a training I took. If I just drag and drop it, you'll see that it downloaded right here. So I know it says on here quick start guide, but pretend it says certification training. But you can download as many as you want on here. You'll see that there's 3 ellipses right here. And if you click on that, you can download and view it, or you can remove it. So again, you as the administrator that is managing this, you can remove and download and view these as you need to. Now, the more that you download on here, you'll notice it's off to the right here, but as you download additional documents, you might notice that it starts moving down here. And again, it's just really dependent on your screen size. So it doesn't really mean anything if it for some reason downloads it and puts it underneath there. So that's that there. Next on here is qualifications and training. I know we went through this in depth in our last 2 webinars that we did in July and August. So I'm not going to go through this in detail, but I will just quickly walk you through this process. Now the recordings are available in Salamander University, so if you want to go back and review that and how to add in qualifications and trainings or how to manage that as the administrator, you can definitely view those videos. We also have tutorials that's available within Salamander Live that you can access as well too. So to add qualifications and training for this individual, just click the little drop down. You'll see that this section opens up. So right here you have your toggles between qualifications and training. So again, we've separated out qualifications from training. So anything that has a education as its kind is going to be separated into this training tab. So on the back end, everything is just put into one category, but on the front end on here, this is just to help you to separate things out and try to locate things easier. So if I wanted to look at training on here, let's say I wanted to go into the ICS trainings, just type in ICS. It's going to pull up a whole bunch of different ICS trainings that's available based off of what's available within Tier 1, as well as anything that you have within your other folders that you as the administrator or your administrator has allowed you to access. So on here, I'm just going to click on Basic, and you'll see that, I clicked Basic. You'll see that Basic has been added. So on this side, this side right here is searching under the Assign side is what has been assigned to this individual. If I click on Advanced ICS, this will be added on here as well too. At the bottom on here, on the Assigned, there's a little plus. If there's a certification that's tied to this, like a certification number, issue date, and expiry date, you can do so. Like I know CPR, they have an expiration date and an issue date, so if you want to put that on there. And then what's going to happen is once this is close to expiring, this information will pop up on your home dashboard under your quals tile. So on there it's going to show, hey, this individual has this qualification that's expiring soon. You may want to contact that individual, let them know so that they can retake some trainings to get that up to date. So again, that's really up to your organization, your policies, procedures, and how you want to manage this. Another way that you can do this is by doing a quick add. So this right here, this option right here is a quick add. You have the option of, toggling between your qualifications and training. So if I want to do qualifications, let's say, do I have anything under CPR? I don't think we do. First aid. Oh, here we have some first aid. So if you just type in anything that has first in there is going to pop up. So medical first aid, if I want to add that in. We have qualification verification turned on this account, and so if you have that, again, that is also included on the new pricing. So if you're on levels 1 through 5, you'll have access to this. If you're on old plan, you won't have access to this. Again, we talked about this in depth in our last 2 webinars, so if you want to review that, you can do so, but for today's training, I'm not going to due to time. So we're going to click Assign, and now this person has been assigned medical first responder. And you'll see on here, you'll see that training doesn't have this in code box, but because this is a qualification, this can be encoded onto this person's tag if we choose to print. So on here, if you don't want this to print on the person's tag, just uncheck it. But by default, this encode box will be checked. So that means that when you print off this person's tag, this medical first responder qualification will be embedded into their QR code. And then on the back of the card, again, depending on your tag design that you choose to print, on the back of the card, there it will also list the code for this qualification. Lastly on here is the medical section. So if you click the medical header, you'll see the medical section that opens up on here. Again, all this information is optional. I don't know a lot of, I know there's a lot of organizations that choose not to put in medical information, but I think it's very important, especially if this person has, any sort of allergies or medications, especially if they're responding to an event. Let's say this person has a pollen allergy, and the incident, for some reason, they're doing a search and rescue, and it's during, it's within a flower field. This person might not be the best person that should be sent to this incident. Or, if they are sent, to say, hey, you want to make sure that you take your meds before you go. So that's why I think this section can be extremely beneficial. But all you have to do is fill in the information. So height, inches, and weight, hair color. These are little, you can basically choose up and down, or you can type them in if you want. Hair color, eye color, gender, blood type, insurance information, organ donor, religion. These are all new. Allergies, if you want to add in here, just click the little section. If you want to add more, just click it again. Same thing with medications. Just click on that, and then you can click and add more. And emergency contact. So if you want to add, John Killebrew's wife on here, and if you want to add, his brother or sister on here, you can do so. Once you're done on here, just click Save. And it's not allowing me to because I have all these additional sections. Oops, delete that. So there it is, physical description, 5'8", and allergies to bees. Questions on filling out the personnel record form. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Just going to pull up my IM to see if there's any questions. Questions? Simple, easy. You'll see that this process is going to be exact same for equipment. It's going to just basically, you going through each of these sections and clicking them and filling in the information. Now, one thing I do want to note on here is at the top, you'll see that there's options right here. So there's an option for you to copy, there's an option for you to delete this record, and an option for you to print this record. So you can do it from here, or you can do it from the personnel list. Normally, it really depends, but sometimes, if you're in here and you just need to print one tag for this person, you can do so. But if there's 10 others that you want to print, I would print from the personnel list, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit here. But let's just first go over how to copy. So let's say you have 2 office managers, and they're at the same location. So you want to make sure, and they have, similar qualifications. And so you want to copy this person's record. They also work for Moosewood EMS. You have the ability to copy this record and then just go in and edit the information that's different. So if I, for instance, want 1 copy, there's a maximum of 20 copies that you can do. This here I think is actually more beneficial on the equipment side, but I know a lot of people that do use this for people that are in the same position, same location, same organization, same qualifications. So we're just going to click copy. So it's going to say 1 copy created. We're going to click close. Once we go to a personnel list, you should see that there's 2 John Killebrews in here. do a quick search at the top here. This is again the shortcut. Let it search, and there they are. So this is the one that's copied. You'll notice that the ID number is a lot longer. So you'll know that that is the copied record. So all you need to do now is to go in there. So to edit a record, simply click on that record, and then now you can go through and edit the information. So for this information up here, a lot of people are like, well, how do I go and edit this information? There's no actual button that you can click. Well, to edit the profile itself, so this basic information, you have to click up here at the top where it says profile. Once you do so, then you can go in and edit this information. So if I wanted to number, he's Moosewood EMS. This is Joe. And then click save. So now we've got Joe Hire in here. He's got the same standard pricing, same title. Of course, his email is going to be different, so you can go in here and update different information. For documents, you'll see that the documents did not transfer over, so you have to go in and upload documents on here. But his qualifications did transfer, and his medical information transferred over. Questions on copying records? All right. Now on here, going back to your personnel list, so that you'll see that there's a whole bunch of people that we have in here. I do want to show you how you can actually edit multiple records at one time. So let's say, for instance, let's choose the organization name. So if you click on it, you can organize it in alphabetical or descending order. So we're going to go through these people right here. So the Foreskill. So if you click on all of these, you have a couple different options that populates up on here. So again, doing this right here is the same as what you can do within equipment. So what I'm showing you right now in the personnel records, you can do this exact same process within the equipment records. There's no difference in that. So on here, I've selected all these individuals from Forestville Fire Department. You'll see at the top here, I can delete all these at once. I can print their tags, or I can edit multiple. So on here, if I edit multiple, if you click on that, you'll see that a blank profile populates. So these are all the fields that I can edit for all these people at one time. So for instance, if I wanted to put a standard rate for all these individuals, they have the same standard rate on here. Let's say it's $30. And I put that on here. Once I click save or apply update at the bottom here, it's going to automatically add $30 into that standard rate field for each of those records. So again, this is a quick and easy way for you to quickly edit multiple records at one time. Of course, you have the option of adding qualifications to them as well too, location, contact, and medical information. So this is a great tool to use. I highly recommend you go in here, especially if you've got standard rate or rate stations and stuff that you know that multiple people have the same of. So all you do is click apply, and all changes are saved, and this is going to take you back into the record. So now if we click on this person, Reese Moeller, standard rate right there, $30. Now for printing, so same as what we did before, if I wanted to print something, I can just click all at the top here. So I'm going to have 30 records to print. If you click this little print option at the top here, first things first, you do have to have print control. Print control is a license key that you have to have in order to print from Salamander Live. If you have never printed from the updated site before, you may receive like a little message that says, hey, you have to update your print control. So just click on and follow the directions on that screen. It'll say, update to the newest version, and then you'll be able to see this here. So once you have the version updated, and once you click print, this print box will populate. So on here you have your different options, depends on what kind of printer that you have and what you're printing, or if you're printing or if you're encoding, especially if you have hard cards. So on here, this is for people, this is what we currently have right now that's set to is the Avery 5163 without images. So that's right here. If I wanted to choose something else, I can do so. If you're brand new to this and you're not for sure what type of design to print and you want to look at some examples, we do have a document. It's called the Default Designs Guide, and that's available within Salamander University. And you can click on that, and it goes through every single design that we have, you know, uses for it, you know, why you would want to print that off, and as well as some examples. So that will help you out in picking out which is the best one for you. Now again, these are all standard designs that we have uploaded in here. If there's a specific design that you want, you know, there is additional software. It's called ID Designer that you can go in and have that design and design it yourself, or you can contact our support team. There is an additional cost for that, but we can design it for you as well too. But these designs on here are available for you to print from. So choose your design, choose your printer. I'm not connected to an actual printer on here, so I usually just print to PDF. But you would select your printer from here, number of copies that you want per person. Normally you'd probably only want one copy, and then starting record number. This here, it just really depends on how many of these tags have been printed already. So if you wanted to start as number 1, if you print it a second time, it's going to say starting record from number 2. So again, this here I wouldn't mess much with. I would just leave it as is. On here you have the ability to put in issue and expire dates for a tag. I know some organizations have their tags reprinted every single year, so they have an expiration date for that. So if this is a reprint for someone that just lost their tag, I would use existing issue and expiration dates. But if this is brand new, this is the first card they ever had, I would go in here and enter in the dates yourself. So issue date would be today and expires 1 year from now. Or, you know, if you guys do yours every 2 years, you can put in, you know, 10, 18, 20, 2020. Again, totally up to your organization. Once you're done, just click print and it should start printing. Questions? No questions? Quiet group. All right, so on here I'm going to clear all selections because I don't want to print all 30 of these. All right, if there's no questions, I'm going to move on to equipment. So we're going to look at the manual add for equipment, and then we'll go through the import process. So that'll be the last thing we'll cover. So equipment. Just click on the equipment from the menu, and this will take you into your equipment list. So these are all equipments that we've already added into our database. Again, this is our test database, our training database. So we've got a whole bunch of information in here. So again, same thing like personnel. If you want to add a new piece of equipment on here, you can click the add button up here, or you can click the quick add option and click equipment. Totally up to you. So on here, you're going to click the add button. So on here, you'll see that there's the create new equipment form. For equipment, there's 3 pieces of equipment that's required, 3 pieces of information that's required. So you have to have an ID, the name of the item, and the organization in which it belongs to. So again, a ID will be auto-generated. Totally up to you if you want to use that. The options up here, you have the option of selecting, is this piece of equipment or item deployable? If it is, you can click that button. What's going to happen is that piece of equipment will go into a list called deployable equipment, and I'll show you what that is at the end. Now, if this piece of equipment is a consumable, so again, this is only if you have inventory management.
I have lost your audio.
Oh, you lost my audio? Okay, let me just answer his question real quick here. Okay, so if you lost audio, obviously you can't hear me, but I did type in here. You can call in using the conference line, or if you do have Skype for Business, just close out of your Skype and then log back in. See if he responds on here. But everybody else can hear me fine?
Yeah, you're coming through loud and clear.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Ron, for answering. All right, so we'll continue here. I have this recorded, so if for some reason you do lose audio or you can't see my screen, everything is recorded and will be available within Salamander University for you to view afterwards. We also have another webinar on this same topic next week as well too. So I know it's being on 2 webinars, but if you want to join again, you definitely can at that.
Is anyone else on this conference hearing anything or seeing anything?
Yeah, this is Phil Johannes. I have access to both audio and video.
I'm just going to give him the conference line real quick here so that he can call in since he's having access for audio issues. Okay. All right. So continuing on this, I apologize. So consumable, you'll only see this option if you have the inventory management feature. So if that's an additional purchase, so that is for a fee. So you would have that option to mark this piece of item as a consumable item. If you leave this unchecked, that means that this item is going to be marked as a fixed asset. So on here, you would just go in and type in what the item is. So I'm just put fire extinguisher, organization. Again, as I said before on personnel, the organization does have to already exist. If you type in the organization and it does not pull down on a list here, you need to go back in and create that organization. That's very important. So on here, Moosewood Fire Department. This description, again, this is an option for you if you want to type in a description, station in which this belongs to. This right here is, this parent field is very important, especially if you're looking at creating, parent-child relationships with your equipment. For example, if you've got, if you wanted to track things this way, let's say on this particular truck you have these pieces of equipment, these items, and they should only go on this truck, you would want to create the parent item first. And then if this is a child of that, so this piece of equipment is on that truck, you can go in here, you can type in, let's say we put on here, I don't think I have anything under fire truck. So the parent equipment already has to exist on here if you're looking at putting a parent. So here, now I've got a whole bunch of engines. So if I have an engine I want to put on, I can make engine 1 as the parent for this. So this fire extinguisher belongs on engine 1. So now if I'm looking at tracking, especially if you're looking at inventory management, you can track that says that engine 1 has this fire extinguisher. If there's 2 fire extinguishers on here, the distinguishing factor is going to be this ID number. I know some organizations, they name their fire extinguishers differently. Again, totally up to you and how you want to do this. There's no right or wrong way to enter in information, but as long as you have those required pieces of information. Category, if you want to put a category on here, you definitely can. It's not required. However, as I mentioned last month during our inventory management training, this can be extremely beneficial if you're looking to use the inventory app, because in the inventory app, there's an option for you to filter your inventory items by category. So that's why I talk about this field being important if you're looking at using inventory management. Other than that, if you're not and it's not something that's important to you, you don't need to do it. It's totally optional. Again, same as before, you have your options of putting in other ID and notes on here. Once you're done, just click Save. Once you do so, it's just like personnel. This will take you directly into the general profile. So this is a summary. So you'll see on here it says general versus profile, which is different in the personnel form. So on here it's a general information. Because I have inventory management turned on, you'll see that there's inventory status on here. If you don't have inventory management, you're not going to see this at all. So for as of right now, just kind of disregard this. We did talk about inventory management last month. If you're interested in learning about inventory management, you can definitely view that that webinar recording, and it's available within Salamander University. All the tutorials that's available on there, you have full access to within Salamander University. If you're interested in purchasing that, I would highly recommend you talk to your local sales rep for purchasing information. On here, because it's a fixed asset, automatically it's available, and you'll see that because we marked it as deployable, it's marked as deployable. Now, same as personnel records, you have the ability to add a photo. So again, you can, if you have a photo available on your computer, you can upload it, or you can take a picture of it if your computer has a camera. Over here you have purchasing information. So this is important, especially if you're looking at, again, it's that whole cost accountability. So if you're looking at being able to manage costs for if this piece of equipment were to be, let's say, issued out during an event, you want to make sure that you are refunded on costs and whatnot that you use for having this piece of equipment on scene. So you would put the cost information on here if there's a cost code, especially if there's a cost code for this, especially if it's a piece of like if it's an engine or something. You can click on here. We have a link for you that brings you directly into the FEMA schedule equipment rates. So if you go on here, all they have up is currently still the 2017 equipment schedule. Click on that, and then click on the PDF. And this is going to open up the PDF for you. Let's see. Let me open this up real quick. So you would go through this list. Let me move this over. You would go through this list, and you would find the cost code that's associated with the piece of equipment you're looking to add in. So here's the cost code. If we were looking at adding an air compressor, the cost code would be 8010. The equipment type would be air compressor. You'll see that there's different capacities and sizes, and then there's the cost rate. So $1.51 per hour. So that's what you would put within Salamander Live. Cost code, the cost, the rate, and then per hour. So on here, one thing to note, even though on the unit, there's lots of different options for you to choose from. As of right now, for our cost reports, the only thing that is reported is hourly. Unfortunately, I know there's different ways in which you can report for rates, if it's per day, and so on and so forth. But as of right now, the only thing that's reporting on our cost report is hour, or anything that's calculated is per hour. In the future, this will be updated so that all of these other ones will be able to calculate on your cost reports. This is for purchasing information, so there's PO number, funding source, vendor. If you needed to purchase another one, this would be great to have on hand. So on here, we'll click cancel. On here, details. So this is details for this piece of equipment. So what's the manufacturing make, model, year, in-service date, VIN, serial number, size, and then if there's a NIMS type of, tied to this. Fill in that information. Same as for personnel, you've got the location and contact information. So where is this piece of equipment located? So where is this fire extinguisher located? So we put that address on here. Again, it uses geolocation. So if I selected that, and who's the person I should contact in order to, let's say if I wanted to borrow this fire extinguisher, who do I need to contact? That's that information you can put down on here. Same thing, documents. If you are on the newest plan, you'll have documents available. The same pricing, or I'm sorry, the same levels and the amount of data limits that I talked about with personnel still is the same for here as well too. Again, you can click or drag and drop your documents up on here, and or of course you can click to add them from your computer. So things on here mostly, I mean, you're not going to have like qualification things like that, but I know insurance information is important. Put on here for a piece of equipment. If there's any other items on here, purchasing like invoicing, if you want to put that on here, you definitely can do so. And then down at the bottom on here is alerts and qualifications. Now alerts, we went through this in depth last month, so I'm not going to go through this. This is actually part of inventory management, so we'll not go through this on this call, but you do have the ability to add alerts for this piece of equipment. If you want to review that, you can go through our webinar that we did last month. That's again available within Salamander University. Down at the bottom here is qualifications. So if you want to add qualifications for this piece of equipment, for this fire extinguisher, you definitely can do so. You'll notice that there is only one option. You can only add qualifications. Obviously, there's no training that can be added to this piece of equipment because piece of equipment, equipment don't go through training. So again, you can search on here or you can do quick adds. So same as what we did before, how I showed you on the personnel side. And then of course at the top here you have the ability to copy. So this is where I was saying that a lot of times, especially you have like multiple pieces of equipment, this is where this can become extremely handy. If you've got fire extinguishers that came in and you want to add those in as separate pieces of equipment, you can do so. So you can enter your copies in here and then click copy. And the only difference that's going to be on here is that ID number. Any questions on adding equipment records? All right, let's go back to the list. Same thing on here. You have the ability to print and copy. So if I want to copy these records, again, it's the exact same thing. The form is just going to be a little bit different. So click on the edit multiple icon. Of course, the form is going to be very different on here because it's going to be based off the equipment form. So these are all the information which you can make the same for each one of these records at one time. And then of course, if you want to print labels or tags for these piece of equipment, you can do so. Just print here, and then the option is going to populate for you for the type of printing that you can do. Sorry, it came up on the window. So there you go. Questions for copying and printing before we move into importing? Pretty simple. All right. Now the importing process. So on importing, there's a couple different things I want to talk about for importing. So let me just close out of this here. The import process, you'll see it's down here. The new one that we have here is equipment. So this is available for everybody that's on the new Salamander Live plan. So before we were only able to do a personnel import, but now you can do personnel and equipment. Another piece of information that's important to note is that you don't just need, or you just can't import brand new pieces of equipment or personnel records. You can also import to update existing records. So that's the great thing about this new import process is you can import in brand new records or you can import to update existing records. The difference between creating a brand new record or updating a new record or updating existing record is that ID number. So one thing that we have always had for our import is a import template. So I highly recommend you go into Salamander University. If you're looking at using the import wizard, make sure you use our template. That template has everything that you need to know and all the details, some examples for you that you can use in order to make sure that you have a good import. So on here, for the import process, so for personnel imports, there is one thing, and this is going to go for personnel and equipment, is that you can only import a CSV file. So before it was an Excel file, now it's a CSV file. So the template that we have available is going to be a CSV. You can convert it to Microsoft Excel, which it looks a lot prettier. But just make sure when you save it as a CSV file so that it can import. Now the column headers are specifically named. So the column headers this time, so I don't know if you're familiar with the old process, but in the old process, in the old site, you had to go in there and map all the column headers to that was within your import file to what's available within Salamander Live. This time you do not need to do that. However, in your actual template, you've got to make sure that you have the column headers and have them named exactly as what they are within Salamander Live. So that's why that template is going to be your best friend. On here, there is going to be a quick reference guide that you can actually pull up. So on here, let's just go here, personnel. So right here, there is a click here to download instructions. So if you click on that, all you need to do is put to browse and select your file. So if you're not sure how to format the data, here is a instruction list. So let me just pull this up so you can see what's available on here, so you have a visual. So this is basically what you're going to follow. So there's a bunch of fields. I think there's like 50 or 60, or 60 on the personnel, and I think 50 on the 55 on the equipment one. These are all the different columns in which you can have. So these are all the fields in which you can enter in. And then here we also put in the max length. So there's a character length. There's the text type if it's a text or a date. And then we also put in some examples on here on what the accepted format values are. Now, if you have the wrong formatted value, let's say for hire date, you put in the dashes instead, and you put month dash date dash year. It's gonna not import over. So we have some examples on here, and then any notes on here. One thing that's very important is for every single one of your import, the organization name must already exist. So before you do your imports for personnel and equipment, make sure you go in and enter and create all your organizations first. So I can't state that enough. That's the same thing for when you're adding in personnel and equipment. It's the same thing when you go in and importing personnel and equipment. Make sure it exists, or you're going to get an error, or you're going to get a import failed. So that's extremely important. On here, you'll see that there's some options on here for pick list. So for example, if you're going to put a status on here, there's a pick list. What a pick list basically means is on your template itself. So we have, pull up my template. Do I have a template on here? So on your template, so this is the CSV template. So you'll notice status. If I go over to status on here, I would have to enter something from this pick list. So on that status field, I have to enter an active, canceled, denied, expired, so on and so forth. You can't just put A in there for active. It's not going to go through. If there's no status that's included, the import's going to assume that's active. So it's going to put active on every single one of these that you look at importing. I know this says equipment, but if you're looking at personnel. Birth date, driver's license, see all this information down here. Standard rate. One thing I wanted to show you down here, which is really cool, which we haven't had before in our old import process, is qualifications. Now you have the option to import in up to 5 qualifications, and I see here there's a typo. There should be 4. So qualification code 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you can put a code in, the description, and then the information for that qualification. And you do all that on that template. So this is the template right here, example template. So you can scroll through and enter in all the information on here. Again, the amount of information that you want to import in is totally up to you. So I've got a template on here that I can import. So let's just do this. Let me personnel import. All you have to do is click upload file. What's going to happen is you're going to see this upload complete. Yay! You're going to receive an email within 15 minutes with the results. That's it. That's as simple as it is for doing an import. The hardest part of completing an import is gathering the data to fill out your template. So this right here is the hardest piece of information, I think, in doing, is making sure that you have all your data in here, that is all correct, so that it goes in correct. All you do is click done. Check your email. You should receive an email from Salamander that says whether or not your import went through. And you'll see on here that import has failed. So you'll see it's coming from Salamander Live Notifications, import failed, and it's going to tell you errors. So there's a couple different things you want to note on here, is that there are going to be two different sections. It's going to be warnings and errors. So let me see if I have an example for one that actually goes through. So I'll show you that one next. But errors. So if there's any errors on here, that means that that record or all the records will not import over. Because we were missing a header on here, which was a required header, I think for this one, I think I deleted the ID number. So as an example, it says that there's a header that's missing. So because of this, this entire import did not go through. So you have to go back into this import, into your import template, and say, okay, what am I missing? What header am I missing that's required? And you look at the top, you're like, oh, okay, the ID is missing. So I need to go in there, add a column, and put the ID in, and enter in all the ID information. That's the one thing on this it doesn't do, is it doesn't tell you what specifically it's on there, but you'll be able to see, especially if you're using our template. Now, if it did go through, you're going to see an example on here. So on here, this is an example. You're going to get, hey, import complete. So you had 10 records. All 10 records were processed, and all 10 records were added. So all those 10 records were added to Salamander Live. However, there is some warnings. So if you see some warnings on here, that means that it was imported over. However, you need to go through and edit the information. So on here, row 11, so on here you would count row down, row 11. There is value provided for field country code is too long. So you would go in here, go over to country code. Oh yeah, it is too long. So country code probably said USA, and you need to change that to US. So again, it'll tell you what the actual warning is about, and you would go into your template and you can fix it that way. Or you can go into Salamander Live and fix it. One thing I like about this is if you have multiple on here, let's say you had you were importing in 3,000, the max you can upload or you can import is 5,000. And if let's say you do 3,000 records and 1,000 of those had warnings, I would just update the template with the correct information and then do another import, because what that's doing is just updating those records, so that way you don't have to go into Salamander Live and manually edit 1,000 records. Hopefully that makes sense. So it's a lot easier for you to edit your template and make sure the information is accurate based off of what you're getting from the warning, and then do another import versus going in and editing 1,000 records manually. So I highly recommend you go through this quick reference guide. If this is your very first time going through a import, just make sure you have some base knowledge on the fields, the requirements, and then once you do so, just make sure you use the templates that's available. So I'm going to show you that real quick. I know it's 3:05, we're running a little over time, so I do apologize, but I want to show you this real quick. So right here, Salamander Live, if you go down to documents on here, templates, if you click on that, There they are. So the personnel import template and the equipment import template. Use these. Don't try to create your own. I mean, you definitely can, but I think it's extra work for you to do so. All right. Any questions on the import process? I know we zoomed through that a little bit quickly, but the process itself is super simple. It's all about the data that you are trying to collect. Questions? No questions? All right. Let me just double check, make sure there was no questions. Do we have any questions? I didn't see any typed up on here on the conversation link side. Well, if you are going through this process, you are, doing your imports and you do run into a question, please feel free to contact me directly. You can email me at training@salamanderlive.com with your questions, and I will be able to respond to you and help you out. So we do have another training call that's going to be next week. So if there's people that coworkers or other team members that that should be on here because they are managing personnel records and equipment records and so on and so forth, I highly have you have them join me on Tuesday, October 23rd at 10 a.m. Central Time. And we're going to go through this exact same training again. We're going to cover the exact same materials. So I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to learn and how to do this the correct way, and hopefully get some tips and tricks on how to utilize these different features that we have available within the Salamander Live site. But other than that, I want to thank you all for being on the call today. After the call, you are going to receive an email with a survey evaluation. Please make sure you take some time to complete that. I always want to know how well we're doing on these so we can improve. On there's an option for you to select topics in which you want us to cover. We are getting to the end of the year and we are looking at planning for 2019. And so we want to hear back from you. I know on the bulletin that we sent out today, there was a section for you to fill out what you want to learn. So I want to hear from you, from our customers, and what you want to learn. Please make sure you respond, let us know so that we can plan on covering topics that will benefit you. Other than that, thank you everybody for being on the call. I appreciate your time very, very much, and have a wonderful day and enjoy the nice weather as we're getting to the end of it. All right, thank you all. Appreciate it.